All right, everybody, happy Wednesday. I've got a lot of information to go with you or to go over with you today, so bear with me. Um, Based off of the hot mess express that was freshman EOC testing, um, our campus has decided to switch to paper. So if you already checked out a device, my apologies. Yesterday was a hot mess. A lot of people couldn't access things. We also had a lot of internet issues. And so it's best that we just go ahead and pivot to paper. Again, out of my hands, that was a decision by someone way above my pay grade. So I just want to make sure that you understand what to expect now on a paper exam and how that will be different. So these are some new reminders. Just, it is what it is. Of course, it's 2021. What do we expect at this point? So sorry, now on paper, kind of no point in you checking out a school device. Yeah, so hold on to it. You never know when these people are going to change their minds at this point. Again, out of my hands. So just some reminders. These aren't they're pretty much the same. You can't have a phone. You need to be giving it to your teachers that are in the room. You will get them back at the end of testing to be able to call your parents and hopefully secure a ride home if you need it. Lunch will be released by an administrator. You will eat in the classroom. You may not have anything delivered. If you don't plan on eating lunch on campus, I strongly recommend that you bring snacks or something because you will get a lunch break whether you want a lunch or not, whether you're done with your test or not. So it's kind of helpful to have something, even if it's just some snacks or something, or plan on getting a lunch through the cafeteria. Your testing room should have been sent to you already in an email this week, so please check your email so you know where to go. There's not lists on the wall or anything like that, like there might have been in years past. This time you will have a dictionary. It will be on your desk. It will be for you. Nobody else will touch it. You may use it for the entire test. You also probably want to bring some extra writing utensils if you have them at home. We do realize at this point, I'm sure nobody has any pencils, but we'll figure it out, okay? The more you bring, the better off it's going to be for everybody. You will remain in your testing room until notified, so even when your whole entire class is done, they have to wait to tell you whether or not when we can give you your phones back. So I really strongly recommend that you bring something to do, whether you can color or you can read. You can't do anything on your electronics. So maybe you bring a hoodie or a sweater or something so you can plan on taking a nap, whatever. Make sure you eat breakfast. Make sure you go to bed. Otherwise, you're going to get so bored and want to fall asleep and have a hard time focusing. There's still the 5-hour time limit unless you have certain accommodations that say you can go, longer than 5 hours. But take breaks when you need them. Be mindful that we still have to social distance, so only one person can go out of the room at a time, and there are limits to how many people can be in the restroom at a time. So, mental breaks are important. I believe you can have gum. I believe you can have mints and water. So again, bring something that's going to help you focus that's reasonable. After your test, like I said, you can take a nap. However, if you drool or snore, we will wake you up because that's gross and distracting. You cannot have your headphones at all. So bring something to do. I legit brought coloring books the other day because I can't do anything either. All right, so the same thing applies. The reading portion is still 50% of the test score. Read the questions first. One of the things I want to talk about is stop lines for annotating. You guys haven't read longer pieces of text and sat to focus on something for longer than 50 minutes in a really long time. So what I like to do is I draw stop lines every 2 to 3 paragraphs. I just draw a line right after it, just so that way I can only process the reading in 2 or 3 paragraphs at a time. That will really help break down the test into smaller, easier to consume chunks, if you will, that you're not trying to focus on multiple pages at one time. Number your paragraphs. That would also be helpful. Focus on keywords. Like I said, do a few here and there, and then, take a mental break. Maybe you can doodle on some scratch paper and then go for it again. Use your dictionary. That's an invaluable resource. It's got a thesaurus built in. You can look for synonyms. If you're not quite sure what something means, look it up in the dictionary. 9 times out of 9 times, they're going to go with the definition that's already in the dictionary. Your writing is 50% of the whole total score, and 50% of the writing score is revising and editing. So it's the same thing. Look for clues in the questions, annotate when necessary, use a dictionary. If you're not sure what a comma is, if you're not sure what a semicolon is, look it up in the dictionary. It will tell it to you. And then whatever skills they're asking you to look for in revising and editing, make sure that you do that in your own writing. Your essay is 50% of the writing score, and we've talked about persuasive essays, right? It really needs to have, focus. It needs to be mature and controlled. We talked a lot about the characters, but now that's kind of out the window. So I'll show you about how long it needs to be and what it looks like in just a second. Use a dictionary or a thesaurus to help you not be repetitive. We don't want to repeat the same word over and over and over and over again. So I created this document right here to show you what I like to call the 5-8-8-5 rule. And that is where you kind of count 5 lines, 8 lines, 8 lines, and then 5 lines on outside of the box. And this is roughly about how long your paragraphs need to be. If you write longer than that, you're going to run out of space. Okay, and so what we tend to see in STAR essays is we have really large handwriting here and then really tiny, tiny handwriting down here. And so to just kind of alleviate all that, I just wanted to show you essentially what goes where and how you want to structure that. So for 5 lines, it should be your intro. Your intro should have like that hook, that lead, right? How does this topic or something relate to everybody? Your bridge is where you're kind of starting to narrow it down into your opinion. And then your thesis statement that answers the prompt and includes 2 reasons. Your first body paragraph should be about 8 lines, not 8 sentences, right? That might be like 4 sentences depending upon how big you write or how long your sentences are. But you should start with your first reason, right? And then you need to give an example that proves that reason. Same thing for your second body paragraph, okay? So you save 8 lines, you start with your first reason, then you give another example that supports it. And I think in your 11-minute essay draft, I asked for a personal experience here. Then you want to save about 5 lines for your conclusion. Some of you might not need 5 lines, so if something goes over anywhere up here, that's fine. But visually, you can see kind of as you're starting to get there, wrap it up, okay? And so if you go 1 or 2 lines over, whatever, just know that you only have the 26. Please make sure you pre-write. You can ask for scratch paper. I know I taught my daughter the Foursquare pre-writing model on Monday night. She took her STAR test on Tuesday, and she told me that the Foursquare was really helpful. So you could do that. You can turn that into an 11-minute essay draft where you start with the intro and then each square is a body paragraph, or you can list things like we've done before. Or if you like the T-chart and the T-chart works better for you, then go with that. Here's one side of the argument, here's another side of the argument. Let me kind of figure out some reasons for either side, and then I can just go with it, whatever you want to do. Please make sure you draft your thesis, make sure it answers the prompt and has 2 reasons. And I know this is hard for a lot of us, but we need to write neatly. A lot of us have been out of practice with handwriting things for an entire year, so it's really important that you practice, okay? So ultimately, we all know that STAR test is what it is. I don't necessarily particularly care about standardized testing, but professionally, I wouldn't be a good teacher if I didn't understand what it means for you. And if you don't pass, then you don't graduate. And so that is really my only emphasis, is that it does affect you and your futures. And so for those reasons, I definitely want to make sure that you're prepared. Regardless, do your best. Okay, you know what to do. You know how to take these exams. These aren't new. This is the only EOC you have to take your sophomore year. Okay, so I've given you an example lined paper. What I highly recommend that you do is look at the essay that you wrote for me already, the last essay, and see if it'll fit within this line, okay? Or print this out and practice it with one of the prompt roulette thesis things that you've done if you haven't done the final essay yet. So let me show you what I mean. All right, so here was the copy that I wrote, but I took my essay, my final essay about avoiding conflict that I shared with you, when it was due probably April 1st. So if you want to go back into our April 1st folder, you can look at it. I showed you how many characters mine was as well. And so I copied pretty much word for word that essay that fit into the character limit. and was able to fit it into the 5885 rule. So you see my introduction, it has my thesis, so on and so forth. And so on the outside of the box, I just made myself notes in terms of an outline, and I was able to fit it perfectly. You know, I really wanted to focus on my handwriting to make sure it was clear and it was legible and it was consistent. I indented in all of my paragraphs, but it still worked. So ultimately, my example on the first, right, is identical to what you should be doing on STAR. This would be a score point 4. It fit the requirements in terms of typing the essay online as well as handwriting it here in this sample paper. So all I did was I printed out, you know, the essay that I turned in, or you know, you can pull it up on your computer, and I just hand wrote it. And I had to take breaks. My hands were hurting. I needed to make sure I kind of stayed with the spacing and kind of counted how many lines I typed out. So if you know if that's something that you want to consider, I strongly recommend doing it. It takes maybe 10 minutes if that, and it's just practice so that way you can visually see where it needs to go. And again, for something that I would have to have in order to graduate high school, I would at least, you know, spend some time today at some point just trying, looking over some stuff, and getting my mind right for that exam. So if you don't have a final essay that you've turned in yet, you can do round 2 of prompt roulette, and that is where you click on this wheel right here using this link, and you spin the wheel, you get a new prompt, and then you write a thesis statement for it. Okay, so if you did this yesterday, you need to spin again and make sure that it is not the same thesis statement. You cannot turn in the same thing from yesterday. And then I highly recommend trying it out. You know, you can use the back of this if you print it. You can use the back to pre-write and see how you would write that essay and then practice it. Just for the sake of writing things down and getting acclimated with this new process. So again, your prompt roulette round 2, you need to at least give me the prompt and then write a thesis statement. It cannot be the same one that you submitted yesterday. Or you can submit one of your missing assignments. Whatever you need to do to submit to get your attendance credit would be great. Preferably something that's missing so we can update your grades. Okay, tomorrow you will not have a Zoom meeting because you'll be hopefully on campus taking your STAR exam. Those of you that are not going to be on campus, there will be an attendance question that you need to take by 2:30 when I take attendance. Otherwise, you'll get the phone call home saying you're absent. You can still answer it as long as it's before midnight, but at 2:30 I'm checking it to take in-person attendance or, you know, whatever I need to do for that day. Friday, I won't be on Zoom either. I'm taking a personal day, but we are going to start talking about looking at what we may or may not want to read, if we are interested in reading a new book, or if we're just kind of, you know, would rather do smaller, shorter stories or something. So we do need to start kind of prepping our brains again to start reading. I know that I've been out of the game as well, so it seems daunting, but I did start reading something new yesterday, and I'm pretty excited about it. By no means am I expecting that you finish something cover to cover, but I do expect that you make an effort and try to choose something that you potentially may be interested in, okay? So please watch my video for Friday. There will be no video tomorrow as it's just an attendance question or you're here taking your exam. But Friday, it is super important that you watch my video since there is no Zoom meeting for the next 2 days. The next time I see you on Zoom will be Monday, okay? All right, everybody. Good luck tomorrow. I believe in you. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. Take care.